So recently a friend of mine brought this banjo to me just to kind of set up. And it is a 60s or 70s, probably late 60s. I'm assuming this is a German made just because some elements are very German, like this whole wedding cake flange and armrest, which are very thin, and the multi-ply neck. I don't know if you can see that really well. And even just the kind of the drop and that string tree remind me a lot of German banjos and guitars I've seen from that era. I think Framus was one, Hofner, Hohner. My very first banjo was actually a Hohner, or I mean a Hofner banjo. There was also a top tension. This is a top tension banjo. The most interesting thing about this banjo to me, though, is the person who owned it. I have a weird woodtop banjo from around 1900, and it was owned by this fellow who taught at the shop that I teach at. But he taught in the shop from the 1920s all the way into the 1980s. And he was also a World War I veteran. And according to the shop's owner, who is the grandson of the shop's original owner back in 1926, it's been in the family ever since, he said the guy was just one of those guys that could play anything. Anything with strings, this guy was just exceptional at. So now my friend Carrie and I both own one of this man's old banjos. My woodtop came off the wall of the shop where it was just hanging as a decoration for years. And with the help of Zachary Hoyt, I was able to get a modern version of it, just one with a truss rod that could use steel strings, and it's a really fun banjo. And if you see Zachary Hoyt's woodtop banjos, they are modeled after that one I pulled off the wall, so that's really cool. So what's interesting about this, again, it is a top tension banjo, and it uses the Allen keys here for these tension nuts on the stretcher band. Everything about this banjo is a little oversized. For example, the head itself is 11 1/16 size. So I was happy to be able to find a ready-made head. It is also technically an arch top, as there is a rolled steel tone ring that just is lathed onto the inside of the rim itself. The rim is a 7-ply rim, and when I had this, Carrie took it to the shop. I was going to take it home to work on. I tried to put it in a resonator case because she doesn't have a case for it, and the resonator is too big for a standard case. This it's just everything's a little oversized. I haven't checked the scale length, but I suspect that's oversized as well. The tuners were clearly replaced at one point by the original owner, and you can see even the screws there's some gigantic screws on that bottom string there. But they're Grover Deluxes, and of course they tune nicely even if they don't look quite right on a banjo. But it doesn't sound too bad with this new head, and it's been tuned. It's just an interesting banjo, and it has a story, and really for me the story's the best part about it. It has a dowel rod that is anchored at the heel of the neck, and it's held on by 3 screws, and then there are 3 nuts or bolts that you can adjust the pitch with, but also down where the dowel or the perch pole meets the tailpiece, you can adjust the angle of that. So all of that, coupled with the fact that it has a truss rod, does make this banjo very nice and pretty easy to set up. So is this a great banjo? No, but it is playable and it is fun. It does have a 0 fret, which is kind of an idea whose time has returned. However, the curious thing about this 0 fret is the nut that is on here kind of forgets the point of a 0 fret, because all the strings clear the 0 fret, and I have no reason to doubt that this is the original nut. So what were they thinking? Right now I have this tuned to what I've heard called old G tuning, where it's just the same as your open G tuning, but instead of a B string here, we have this tuned down a step to A. resonator banjo, arch top, but it's pretty mellow sounding. And there you are. So it is just, I don't think I said, but it is branded Contessa. I really don't see anything much different between this and, say, a Framus banjo of the same era. I believe Framus are German made. The bottom line is I feel confident in saying this is European. So there you go, a late 60s, early 70s Contessa 5-string banjo.